We all know the saying that like you are what you eat. So whatever you are eating, that determines your health. And then there is another part to it, like you are how you eat it. So what does that mean? Like this is like whether you are chewing it properly or just digesting piece by piece. So that also determines your health and other aspects of the body. This talk is explores on the second part. We'll see what the details are. This is part of the series, What is Ailing the Science? I'm trying to point out the drawbacks in research publishing in science. As part of that, I gave the introduction earlier. I gave the introduction, and this is the first talk as part of the series. My name is Karunakar Marsukatla. Today is April 26, 2024. The title of the talk is What Determines the Gestation or Egg Laying in Species. We know that a species divided into some lays egg and some goes through gestation in the reproduction process. So what makes them different? Why the species got divided into these two groups? That's what I'm trying to explore in this talk. So unrelated to that, in 2008, I gathered data to see why some species like alligator have unidirectional lungs. So that got my one of the article describing that part of the alligator got my attention, and I tried to investigate that problem and collected the data of so many species, like their breathing systems and everything. And then I started to analyze that data. So, but at the end, I was not able to succeed on my venture at that time. I was not able to find a clue to why the alligator has a unidirectional lung. But to my surprise, the data led me to a different conclusion. So what is that? So this is in a short table. I summarize the data. So some of the like a cow, elephant, bat, and lion. These species, what they were doing is they were when they eat food, they won't digest like ingest large piece of meat. Instead, they basically chew the food into small pieces and then break down the food break the food into small pieces and then ingest into the stomach. So those species which are breaking down the food and swallowing it after that, they ended up having a gestation in their body. And then the other part where the species where they are taking the large chunks of food or as a whole, like snakes ingest large snakes or frogs, those ones ended up having turned out to be egg laying. So this is how the data I collected turned out to be fell into these two categories. So why so what does this signifies? So why there is a distinction between having teeth, molar teeth, where you can crush the material into small pieces, and not having a molar teeth, and that ended up being egg laying. So when I investigated into the further, so in my research what I found is so just imagine breaking the vegetables in a grinder or mixer into small pieces. So digestive system goes one step further and breaks the vegetables into molecular level for the absorption into the body. The amount of gastrointestinal acid used to break down the food depends upon the size of the ingested food material. If alligator eats a whole leg or something of some animal, so it needs a lot of acid to break down that material to the level of molecular level to get absorbed into the body. In other words, like if the lion eats the same leg, it takes a small chunks of meat, and then it just chews the food into small pieces, then injects. So when lion takes the same leg piece into pieces and crushing into small pieces, and then alligator taking that as a whole, though these two scenarios are totally different. So one alligator case requires more acid, and then the lion case requires only less amount of acid to break down that material even further into the molecular level. So what is the conclusion of the main points of the research is, so chewing the food breaks it into small pieces. That requires less amount of gastrointestinal acids to break it down further into molecular level. Limited usage of the acid generates less amount of internal heat, making it conducive for gestation. So less amount of acid, when it breaks down, heat gets generated, right? So that heat in the stomach, because it's less amount of heat, the uterus is next to stomach, right? So that makes it conducive for the keeping the embryo for fetus for longer period of time. So that's why those species which were chewing the food into small pieces ended up adopting the gestation. When you look at the other cases, ingestion of large pieces of meat requires large amount of gastrointestinal acids to break it down into molecular level. Excess amount of acid generates more heat in the digestive system. As the digestive system is closer to the uterus, to protect the fetus, species adapted to egg laying. So they don't want to keep it for longer times, because the heat generated in the stomach will affect the fetus in the uterus. So that's why they kind of adapt up to egg laying, and egg laying, and then so basically egg laying can be described as the shortest gestation period with a duration of 1 day. So that's what species slowly, when they adapted to egg laying, the shorten the gestation period when they, and then at the end it finally came to as an egg, and then that egg, they lays the egg, and then embryo, whatever that fetus grows into the in the egg. So that's how the species turned out to be. Some adapted the gestation, and some adapted to egg laying. So the conclusion is, gestation period of an animal ranging from days to months depends upon the size of a single bite compared to its size, whether it is chewed or ingested as a whole, and type of food, whether it is rich in nutrients or not. So these are the factors that basically determines the gestation period of a particular animal. From this research, it is evident that evolution not only dependent on natural selection and genetic drift, but also on the foraging, hunting, and dietary habits of species. So evolving gestation or egg laying is part of the evolution. So the dietary habits, how they are ingesting the food, has an impact on the evolution. This could be the major impactor to direct the evolution. So in fact, the dietary habits could be the biggest influencer of evolution. And then when you look at and graphically, so this is the multicellular body, and then there are two species, species one and species two. So natural selection and genetic drift, they might have arrived at that spot, but at some point when they start to cannibalize or eat other species, this species eating this one because this is a prey, and then this is a predator, species 2 eating species 1. So species 1 remained as gestation, but species 2 eventually evolved into egg laying because it has more internal heat in its stomach, because it's using eating the other species as a whole or in bigger chunks. So how do you define the relation between the ingested food and the gestation period? So we can look at some of the data for the species. When you look at the giant panda adapted to consume hard to digest bamboo. The excess internal heat in digesting the bamboo reduced its gestation period compared to mammal of similar size. So panda is almost like a bear, but both are having a different. Panda has very short gestation period, and bear has a long gestation period. Why so? Why the variance in this? That is because the type of food they are eating. So that resulted in the smallest newborn compared to the size of the mother. So when you see the panda newborn, it's very small. Similar to pandas, marsupials' dietary habit include harder to digest food with shortened gestation period of few weeks. Marsupials also similar to panda, they have also very less nutrient food they eat, so that because it's less nutrient, so they need to eat lot of food and then more acid to get the nutrients from those leaves or whatever, and then that ended up generating more heat, so that's why they adapted to shorter gestation period. So wombat digestion takes around 8 to 14 days. So that many days the acid keep on generating and breaking down the food and then taking the nutrients from that food. So that long, if it is a gestation continues for longer period, then it will affect the fetus. That's why these species shorten their gestation period. So wombat digestion takes around 8 to 14 days, and the gestation period is around 20 days. It's almost equal to digesting one food, and therefore marsupials fall in the middle of egg laying and longer gestation period. So reptiles will have shorter gestation, like egg laying, is just 1 day of gestation, and placentals, like most of them are having longer gestation. But this wombat and then panda have very short gestation period, where they generate medium internal heat in digesting the food. So the other one, cow and lions, these generate medium internal food. When you look at in the picture, so birds and reptiles, they generate a lot of heat and they adapt to egg laying, that we can term it as 1 day of gestation. And giant panda and marsupials, wombat, so these species have short gestation period. So because they need a lot of acid to digest that whatever that food they are taking in, because that is less nutrient. Then others, cows, eat grass with a good amount of nutrition, and elephants and lions. So these are all having a longer gestation period because they require less amount of acid to digest their food. So this all this research I published in 2018 as the first version, and then revised it in 2019 in a third revision, posted it in the preprint, PeerJ preprints. A link is here, and also I published that on the Wixla preprints and researchgate.net and academia.edu also. I posted that article a little bit later. So that is the summary of my research, and this is one thing probably you'll be knowing first time. So the age-old question, we know that a lot of people puzzle ask like which one is um, first, like a chicken or egg, which one came first? So the answer to the question is mammals. So this is the first generation mammal, and then second generation mammal. This could be second generation S121 and S22. We can call it that way. and then they're going in this line, diverging, and these species going in this divergence. So what happens? They continue as a mammal in the third generation or something, S31, and then here this mammal, this when it is split into birds and reptiles in S32 or S33, they because they probably started eating these species, mammals as a whole, are in a large chunks. So that way, slowly from this mammal, they slowly evolved into shorten the gestation period and ultimately evolved into egg laying. So when we say chicken or egg, so these at the present they are laying eggs, but their mother is a gestation had a gestation as the reproductive system. So that's why. So we could say that egg first or chicken or egg. So the final answer is we could say that like it's a chicken. The chicken was there. It adapted slowly, adapted by eating the bugs as a whole. It adapted to egg laying. So that is when somebody asks next time the question. So it could be chicken as the answer to that question. And also I published this as a short video earlier in 2022. Here is another thing you probably going to see the first time. There are two verses in Manusmṛti. The following two verses from Manusmṛti, an ancient Indian text, astonishingly explains the same theory that I explained earlier. So what it says is uh, cattle, deer, wild beasts with 2 rows of teeth, Rakshasas, Pichasas, and men are viviparous. So that's what their gestation grows the fetus inside the body. That's what it's saying. I'm surprised to see that like they divided the animal kingdom into two parts and then said teeth are the one that separates species, not the way they tender to their like a newborn, giving as a milk, mammal glands or something, but they chose to use teeth as the one that differentiates. I found out later that like it has the similarity because I read the Manusmṛti in the when I was exploring the Manvantara cycles. I remember something like this, but when I started researching my theory, then I remember that there is a verse sloka in the text that has a similar kind of theory. So that surprised me, and then that's why I'm including it here to show you the first time. And so the 2 rows of teeth mentioned in the above verse should be treated as molar teeth. So they said teeth, but when you see crocodiles, they also have teeth. But what I think they meant when they say teeth is that is molar teeth, that where you can chew the food. So the other version is other next verse is like birds, serpents, crocodiles, fishes, tortoises, and other animals of similar kinds, terrestrial as well as aquatic, are oviparous. Means like they are egg laying. So that's how in these two verses that Manusmṛti ancient Indian text divided the species. That's one thing everybody needs to think of. The treasure in the ancient texts, very advanced thinking. How they found out is something needs to be one needs to be explored. So that's one important thing of the research. So this I kind of rewrote the same verses to because the text was not clear there, and then this is I picked up from a archive.org repository of translation by Ganganath Jha, published in 1920. So you can download volume 1, part 1, discourse 1, chapter 25th, And then those are the verses 43 and 44. And one more thing I want to tell you about my theory is effect of cooked food on Homo sapiens. So we know that the existing research suggests that the size of human brain increased after we started eating cooked food. So the research suggests that like a human brain was not as big as we have at this time. The ancient when it was evolving, um, the brain size was smaller compared to our size. But the researchers found that when that would happen, that happened at the time when humans learned to cook the food, and then that's when it started to grow the brain. So what is the link? The link is in my research. The cooked food requires less amount of energy to digest. That saved energy was used by the brain to handle complex tasks. As a result, the size of the brain increased. When you started doing complex works, more and more, the brain adapted and then grow more cells, and then so that way it gave the ability to do complex thinking. So that's how it evolved a larger brain. Another interesting change caused by eating the cooked food is increasing the length of the gestation period in humans. When Homo sapiens were eating raw food, their gestation period could have been shorter than today. So that is I'm proposing that in my theory that so when you eat raw food requires more heat. So more heat generates in the stomach, then means the gestation period would have been smaller when humans were evolving 5 or 10 million years ago, whatever that period when they were eating. So the gestation period could have been very, very short. And when humans started cooking, the brain size increased as well as the gestation period increased, because the fetus has a very comfortable environment inside the body, so they stayed more longer period. That is another point to note from my research. So the dietary so these the dietary restrictions during pregnancy, like it's not a new thing. Like dietary habits dictate the more than health, right? So it has major impact on the reproductive system. Age-old knowledge of restrictions spanning multiple cultures on the type of diet consumed during pregnancy appears to be correct. In this regard, food restrictions in Indian culture passed over for generations, and similar concepts in Ayurvedic medicine needs to be explored further. So, when in particularly in India, if somebody is pregnant and carrying, they have a lot of restrictions. You're supposed to eat this, and you're not supposed to eat that. So those restrictions, because they're not supposed to eat food items, might be generating more heat. That's why they restricted them. That they affect the fetus. So that's why they restricted people, pregnant women eating those kind of material. So it has a solid base in the research. But when you look at the allopathic medicine, this work also impacts the practice of allopathic medicine. According to its standards, the type of food has no impact on health. That assumption needs to be rewritten. Yeah. So allopathic medicine, these are whatever based on the current existing research. Previously, based on that, they are telling that okay, gestation has no whatever you eat, no impact on the gestation. But the research, what I am found out from this research is it does affect the fetus if you eat certain foods that generate more heat. So that way, I think allopathic medicine needs to change and assimilate the concepts that are there in Ayurvedic medicine. And then I think when you merge the Ayurvedic medicine with the allopathic medicine, those two concepts when they merge together, I think that becomes a very, 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 I think best medical system, I guess. So I think that should happen. Back to the first question, where I started exploring the unidirectional lungs in alligator. My thinking, my guess is that from all this research, what could I guess for the solution for that alligator having a unidirectional loop inside the lungs is one thing for sure is that the unidirectional lungs are present only in predators. That's what, like not in cows or lions. We don't see that unidirectional lungs. My guess is that it provides stealth in their hunting of the prey. So when you have multiple sacs in the lungs, and then it can hold more air, and then so when they are hunting, they can hold the breath and then approach the prey in a stealth way. So that's, I think that's why those predators evolved unidirectional lungs. So breathing generates the sound and reveals the scent of the predator. To avoid that, they were holding the breath for longer periods. Slowly, the lungs started to expand, and the other end of the lungs connected to the trachea, forming a loop. Thus, the predators evolved with unidirectional lungs. That's my guess for why alligator and similar species have unidirectional lungs. Some of the predators hunt underwater too. Unidirectional lungs with multiple sacs provide the ability to hold the breath for longer periods. So, so that's the part that explains my theory and its impact on other subjects and reveals more new aspects of the science theories. And what the end note is, the saying of "you are what you eat" is just a half truth. So how you eat, by chewing it into small pieces or gulping as a whole, is also important. So what you eat, you are what you eat, and you are how you eat is also important factor. So this research extends the theory of evolution from natural selection and genetic drift to dietary habits. So I believe this is a significant discovery on par with any major discovery in science, because this is almost equal to natural selection or genetic drift, whatever those theories. Mm, so this is, I think it's a major discovery. Then why you haven't heard about it, even though it was out there openly for the past 5 years? So this is a major that's why scientific community is not seeing major advancements openly. So then not people are not able to see any great. So when you hear something, wow, it's a great theory. So those kind of theories are missing in current science. So that's because so many restrictions in scientific publishing, and then flawed fundamental concepts. So these are all restricting um, what we can see, what can be discovered, and all these things affecting people to sharing the knowledge like this. So there could be many reasons for not knowing this discovery till now, but going forward that needs to be changed. So that's why I'm starting this series to show that what we are missing, as showing that this kind of great discoveries, major discoveries, are not getting popularized in the community, and also why it's happening, what are the issues, and what we can solve to make it to solve the problem. So that's what the series is. There's a earlier talk I gave for the introduction to the series. This is the first talk in the series. And then so basically what I am covering is, I put some little couple of my discoveries, and then what I point out what are the drawbacks in publishing the scientific research, and then at the end I will try to formulate a kind of ideal environment for publishing the research. Some concepts I'll kind of summarize and then show the what could be the ideal environment for publishing the research from all circles. So that is the talk for today. Please share wherever you think it is appropriate, and thank you very much for watching this video.